I am ready to talk about all of the books that I read in December, and I know this video is going to be up super late in January, and that is because I got sick right after Christmas, right after the holiday, just like everybody else I feel like. But that's okay because I do want to talk about all of the books that I read in the last month of 2025 to kind of celebrate me reading back up again and reading consistently for a whole year. Honestly, I'm not really sure the order of this book, so I'm just gonna pick up whatever book that I have on the top of my stack here. And one of the books that I read in December was The Rom-Commers by Katherine Center. Katherine Center is honestly one of my favorite authors. Like, all of the characters always have a very interesting life, a very interesting jobs that they do, and I can say the same about The Rom-Commers. This is about Emma, who is a screenwriter. She desperately wanted to be a professional screenwriter. She's been writing forever. She's been kind of like doing contests, like writing contests, but never really have anything published or that she can call her own. And the love interest is Charlie Yates, who is supposedly this very famous screenwriter in Hollywood. He is known usually for kind of like a more action movie and all of that, but he is trying to create a screenplay for a rom-com, and it was horrible. Basically, Emma was going to get hired to help Charlie kind of restructure and redo basically this rom-com screenplay. But of course, Charlie thinks that he doesn't really need her help. He is famous for a reason. Why does a nobody essentially trying to help him out with rewriting his screenplay? Anyways, he said yes, and that is how the story unfolds in this book. Emma also has a very traumatic and tragic background story that happened to like her family, which is again is the interesting part of the characters of Katherine Center's like books, and I just love her for it. I cannot wait to read a little bit more of Katherine Center's next year, especially some of the backlist that she has. I think I'll probably have about 4 or 5 more that I still need to read, and I know she's coming out with a new book, I believe in May, called The Shippers. I have the e-arc for it, and I might read it before the book comes out in the next few months. But if you are looking for heartwarming romantic story with very little spice, you should definitely pick up a Katherine Center book next. So this is gonna be the first holiday romance that I read in December. This was Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. This one has a very interesting premise, and I feel like when I first started reading about the book, I immediately think that there's no way there's gonna be a happy ending for this two. Let's just say the ending was very unexpected, and I feel like that is why I love this book so much. This is about Nolan, who is a ghost. He is the ghost of Christmas past, and this year I guess he's been assigned to haunt Harriet. Usually when you are haunted by, you know, the ghost of Christmas past, that means that you did something wrong in the past. The ghost will take you to the past for you to kind of learn the lesson and kind of like, I don't know, redeem yourself. And I guess whenever these two go back to her past, she didn't really do anything wrong. She didn't really basically need to redeem herself. However, there's this one instant where they went back and they realized that there's something going on, something that is kind of unusual with their trip to the past. And that is how they realized kind of that they might be connected in some other ways from the past. This book was actually really good. I really enjoyed this book, and I know that from people who have talked about holiday romance that they've read, none of them have been really that great. But I'm thankful that when I read this for the first time, like I was reading holiday romance for the first time last, December, this book was really great. So it kind of gives me hope for other holiday romance books that are gonna be coming out by B.K. Borison. The next one that I decided to read in December was If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. This is, I think, was originally published obviously in Japanese, and it's been translated to English. I got this as one of the $5 Barnes & Noble Cafe books sometime in 2025. It's a very thin book, and I thought I would be able to read this maybe in a few days. The premise of this book is again very interesting. The main character, I don't even know if he actually said his name. The main character works for the post office, and he basically was diagnosed with a very terminal illness, and the doctor said that he doesn't have that much long to live. And after the doctor told him his diagnosis, he was kind of depressed. And I think that same night, the devil came over to him and kind of give him an offer to make things disappear from the world, and in exchange he will let him have another day to live. So throughout this book, the main character was trying to figure out what kind of things that he can make disappear from this world so he can live for another day. And I feel like there's a lot of reflection that the main character did in the book to think about what kind of things he should make disappear, and it was just kind of an interesting reflection. I know people love this book, but to me it was just okay. I think it's because the ending was not as I expected it to be. Maybe it is up to us to interpret what it means. Definitely throughout the book, I do enjoy the story that he tells, and when he's kind of reflecting about his past life, he got to reconnect with this one person that he loves in the past and all of that, and it was just really sweet. And of course, there's a cat in the book. There is the cat named Cabbage, which is, I believe, this one, because he technically had 2 cats throughout his life. And it was just a cute story. I have a cat. I am a cat lover, cat owner. Any book with a cat just kind of like touched my heart. But again, like I said, this book was great. I do enjoy the story and the reflection that he kind of did throughout the book, but I just did not like the ending. Let me know in the comment below if you have read this book and if you agree with what I thought about the ending. The next book that I decided to read in December was If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. I feel like this is the fall book of 2025 because everyone was reading this book, and for good reason, because if you just look at the cover of the book, it screams fall. Fall and Gilmore Girls. That's what people say all the time. But I gotta agree with a lot of those comments. I did not really watch Gilmore Girls. I tried to watch a couple episodes, but I don't know, I just couldn't really get into it. But anyways, I know the vibe of Gilmore Girls, the vibe of that like small town, what is it called? Stars Hollow, I think that's what it's called. And I could totally see why people say that this book reminds them of the whole Gilmore Girl vibes. But I do love this book. I do enjoy the small town vibe, the, you know, funky and eccentric characters of all of the people who live in the town. The only thing about this book that I don't really like is how long this book is. If you're looking for the ultimate slow burn adult romance book that is really cute with like I said, funky eccentric characters, that small town vibe, this will be the book for you. I would give this like a perfect score, but I have to knock off 1 star because of how long the book is. But the thing is, I also couldn't stop reading, couldn't stop flipping the pages because I just want to know when is this gonna happen between our 2 main characters. Cliff, well, the guy's name is Cliff, and Michelle is the FMC. I just want to know when they're gonna get together. And obviously there are things that happen with their individual lives that might make them kind of like hesitate to start anything together. Like, I don't know if I mentioned, but he is a single dad with 2 daughters, and basically she was just moving to this small town temporarily to kind of take over her mom's bed and breakfast before her sister graduated college, and then the sister will take over the whole business. I feel like that's the whole premise, where they weren't really sure if they should start anything because she's eventually gonna go back to her old life and leave this small town. Like I said, the story is still pretty enjoyable, but it is so slow. Super slow burn, but I just enjoy really the banter and just also the connection between Michelle and his 2 daughters, the oldest and the younger one. And I just love that relationship. But I have to warn you that this is the slowest of slow burn. I feel like you would still enjoy the read, but I think at some point you'll get pretty impatient and you just want them to get together because you're rooting for them. The next book that I read in December was The Holiday Switch by Tiff Marcello. This is a YA romance book, and it is set in a small town, and both of the main characters are Filipino Americans. I just always love reading about other kind of like Asian American family dynamics in books because I honestly don't have that. Most of my family still live back in Indonesia. It's just different when you grow up with like a big family, and then once you immigrated to like a different country, you don't really get to bring all of your family with you. So it's kind of fun to read about all the family gatherings and books like this. Anyways, this book is about Lila, who is a senior in high school. She's trying to work as much as she can so she can save up money for college so she doesn't have to burden her parents. And she works at this famous inn because this inn was a setting for this Christmas holiday movie that was pretty iconic back in the day. And her boss is also a Filipino American woman. And I guess in the beginning of the book, we were introduced the love interest, which is Teddy Rivera, who is her boss's nephew, who's gonna start working at this inn. And I guess one day they accidentally took each other's phone, and from then they kind of learned each other's secrets, and they were kind of like bonded together with trying to keep this secret from her parents and from his parents and his aunt, who is Lila's boss. I think it was just kind of a cute story. It wasn't really giving me a lot of, I don't know, the holiday feel as much, and it definitely reads a little younger, but I do still enjoy the writing. And I'm pretty sure I have Tiff Marcello's adult romance book that I am planning to read hopefully this year. And like I said, it was still cute, but I just feel like I'm definitely not the target audience for this book. Last but not least, I finally started another series, and it is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I honestly didn't really know what to expect from this book. I didn't know that this kind of has a murder mystery as the center of the trope as well. It is set in, I think, the 1800s in England, I want to say. And it was kind of like the pre-courting season. I think the courting season is in the spring, and this kind of like happens in the fall, winter-ish time. And I cannot wait to read the second book, hopefully pretty soon. But anyways, if you have never heard of Belladonna before, this is about Signa, who is an orphan. Since she was a baby, her family was wealthy, and she can only get her inheritance when she turned 20. And in the first book, she is 19. She is about to turn 20, but she still has to go to her next guardian, like her next relative, which is the Hawthorns, because her current one just passed away. And that is what happened to all of her guardians in the past. Somehow they always die pretty quickly after she gets to their place, and there's been a rumor going that she is kind of like the angel of death, because anytime she goes to someone's house, to her guardian's place, something bad would always happen to the adult that is in charge of her. She's trying to make the Hawthorns kind of like alive, basically, as long as she can before she turned 20, and you know, she can live on her own. But things are happening in the Hawthorns household. The matriarch, basically the mom of the family, just passed away. The dad was kind of mourning the death of his wife. The son is trying to kind of keep the family together, and the daughter is basically suffering from the same illness that killed the mom. And I guess when she got to the estate, the spirit of the mom actually communicated with her, saying that she died because she was poisoned. And because Signa wants to keep this family specifically to stay alive as long as she can, she basically goes into investigating on who the murderer is. She assumed that the murderer would be someone from the inside, and she also has help from this stable boy that actually was the one who kind of picked her up from her previous guardian house that escorted her to the Hawthorns. Anyways, this book is actually pretty good. I really do enjoy the murder mystery, and I did not expect the plot twists kind of like toward the end of the book, and also the ending. I cannot wait to read the second book. So let me know in the comment below if you guys have read Belladonna before. I do have book 1 to 3, I believe, and I know there's a novella after that. A lot of people say that you don't have to read it, but I think if I do enjoy the second and third book, I might also grab that novella. Those are all of the books that I read in December. I really wish I read more holiday romance, because I do have quite a bunch of them that I've collected in the last few months of 2025. So maybe next year, when the holiday is coming around, I'm gonna try my best to maybe start reading the holiday romance books that I have, maybe in November, not in December. That way I can read a few more than just 2 books like I did last month.